Welcome, everyone. I'm Kathy Olevsky, the host for the Vasculitis Foundation Educational Webinar Series. I'm also a patient living with MPA vasculitis. Today's webinar is about integrative medicine, and we are excited to have with us Dr. Mihaela Taylor to educate us, and Dr. Tanaz Kermani, who will ask Dr. Taylor your questions after her presentation today. So let me begin by giving you a little information about each of them. Dr. Mihaela Taylor is a rheumatologist focusing on applications of integrative medicine in the field of rheumatology at UCLA Health. She completed her rheumatology fellowship at Loma Linda University and a 2-year integrative medicine fellowship at Arizona Center of Integrative Medicine. And Dr. Tanaz Kermani is a vasculitis expert and clinical professor in the Division of Rheumatology at University of California at Los Angeles. She completed a residency and rheumatology fellowship at the Mayo Clinic, followed by an additional 2 years of vasculitis training as part of the NIH-sponsored Vasculitis Clinical Research Consortium. She is the founder and director of the multidisciplinary UCLA Vasculitis Program. So we would like to welcome Dr. Taylor and Dr. Kermani, and I think we'll begin today by asking Dr. Taylor to go ahead and share her presentation.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And thank you so much for giving us your time today. And I would like to ask you both if you have a disclosure right before Dr. Taylor shares her screen.
No disclosure, no conflicts of interest.
Same here, no disclosures or conflicts of interest.
Okay, wonderful. So what we will do at this point is, Dr. Taylor, I will go on mute so I stop aggravating everyone with this echo, and you can take it away. Thank you.
I will give a little bit of a summary of my previous presentation in the first 5 minutes. I just have to figure it out how to advance my slides. Okay, thank you. So these buttons are working? Okay, good, they are working. Thank you, Dr. Kermani, for coming to the rescue. See, that's why we need to be together, to help each other. And that's the major message of stress coping. It's always good to have someone to lean on when you need. So in lieu of disclosure, as I mentioned, I have no conflicts of interest. This is more about how I got to speak to you today regarding integrative medicine and stress. So basically, my patients have been challenging me with questions about health and healing. And as an allopathic or Western medicine trained physician, I had little answers. So I decided to learn and enroll in a 2-year fellowship with the Integrative Medicine Center at Arizona University, and start, just like in medical school, picking up textbooks and doing literature search to find more about how the body heals and how can we counteract excessive and maladaptive stress, and how we can regain the balance. So I will try today to describe to you how the chronic stress affects the body, and give you some tools to counteract this maladaptive, which means adapted in the wrong way, stress response in the body, through the relaxation response. And I hope I'll give you some tools to activate this relaxation response through holistic treatment approaches. So why holistic care? This is a patient perspective from an integrative medicine book. You can see at the bottom here the references where I use my material. Patients often find value and empowerment in blending what is known to be effective in conventional Western medicine with healing modalities from other traditions, philosophies, approaches, and cultures. We are all different. We come with our own traditions, upbringing, philosophy of life, different cultures. So we are blessed here with such diversity, and it's so important that we recognize and we harness the power of our heritage. It is challenging to balance in chronic conditions, and vasculitis being one of these chronic conditions. It is challenging to balance the benefits of long-term immunosuppressive therapies with its associated complications. As you all probably can relate to this: weight gain, osteoporosis, heart disease, deconditioning, mood changes, insomnia, come in the package of the condition itself, but also to the conventional treatment that it's life-saving or organ-saving, but unfortunately does come with some side effects. And I can definitely relate to this statement. Western healthcare system is poorly equipped to tackle the stress that comes with living with a chronic illness, such as vasculitis. Patients struggle with loss of identity, loss of employment, isolation, strained relationships, mood changes, chronic pain. So the ideal treatment model would include a multidisciplinary, multimodal approach to care. And this is what we are trying to do. And I'm grateful that Dr. Kermani is inviting me here to speak to you today and to hopefully bring some information that will be helpful for you. So as a Western medicine practitioner dealing with chronic illnesses, I found that the challenge is to dismantle the fear of a bad outcome, the fear that comes when you give a diagnosis of a chronic illness. And it's very important for us practitioners to ignite the trust in the healing that is innate in our makeup. The analogy I give to my patients is of a seed that it's sprouting and it's blossoming in this beautiful flower. That's exactly the way that seed is programmed to grow and blossom if it's given proper soil and sun and water. Same for our bodies. They are programmed for healing. Think about that. If you cut yourself, there is a natural healing that restores, the integrity of the tissue that had been injured. The same is with healing. It's programmed in our every cell. It's innate to us. So the power of healing, we really have to nourish. And the first step is to dismantle this fear, because our nervous system is very powerful and it's in charge of the immune system. We'll see that down in the presentation. So we can take action, and we need to look for things that we have control over. We may not have control as much when we talk about, certain environmental or genetic things, but we do have control over our diet, our mind, our relationships. And what I would like to, show in this presentation, that we can have control over most of the stressors that come with dealing with a chronic illness. So once we remove some of these obstacles toward the healing, we definitely can see this healing happen. And the healing from a holistic medicine approach It's of body, mind, heart, and spirit. It comes together and it's all connected. At the last seminar, we tackled the nutrition, talked about few of the supplements, mainly vitamin D, and we started discussing a little bit about mind-body medicine interventions, and this will be the focus of today's presentation, mind-body medicine, because it is very pertaining to the stress response and how we can harness that. So we concluded that the most studied and endorsed diet, let's say, or nutrition is the Mediterranean diet. And as you all know, it's a diet very rich in fruits and vegetables. Olive oil, it's very important in this diet as it contains polyphenols and has excellent anti-inflammatory benefits. The seafoods, fish, also through the omega-3 fatty acids, a lot of benefits for counteracting inflammation in the body. The nuts also provide monounsaturated fat, just like the olive oil. And the fruits and vegetables are a big staple of the anti-inflammatory dietary interventions because they provide lots of antioxidants as well as the fiber that we need for feeding the gut flora. And we discuss the importance of microbiome in maintaining a healthy immune system. So we cannot take lightly the benefits of a diet that is rich in fruits and vegetables, because they have a lot more than, you know, the vitamins or the fiber that they provide. They are probably in the evolutionary biology, they are blended into the way we have evolved as human beings, and the microbiome as being part of that evolution. So Mediterranean diet is being endorsed also by the American Heart Association, as it reduces cardiovascular risk. The gastroenterologists recognize again for the benefit of the microbiome the importance of a high fiber diet. And as I mentioned earlier, the antioxidant power of these nutrients and vitamins. Also, because it turns out to be a low-fat diet, as most of the animal protein comes from fish and poultry or lean meats, it does promote weight loss, which is also very important as it has benefits for countering the inflammation. Of course, I did train with Dr. Andrew Weil, and I adopted, and that's what I recommend to my patients, his anti-inflammatory food pyramid, as it very much mirrors the Mediterranean diet. As you can see here at the base of the pyramid, again, lots of fruits and vegetables. You can see there the nuts, the fish and seafood. And what I also like, the emphasis on the healthy herbs and spices, garlic, ginger, turmeric, cinnamon. Very few people know that if we compare the berries' antioxidant power, the spices have at least 100 times higher potency in regards to antioxidant power. Same for, you know, green tea and supplements here, as I mentioned. Fish oil earlier, you can either use it in your diet or you can add a fish oil supplement. And vitamin D for my patients is something I'm very focused on maintaining it in a good level. So the summary for the dietary recommendation was that we need lots of fruits and vegetables. Enjoy going to farmer market and try to cook. Interestingly enough, lightly cooked vegetables provide more nutrition, and they are much easier to digest than fresh or raw vegetables. So lightly cooked vegetables, lots of organic if possible, and avoiding processed foods. And at the top of this, the sugar, white flour, processed foods, definitely challenge. Also with the holidays here, we have to be very mindful. And speaking of mindfulness, we are going to transition in today's topic that is stress. So how is the stress affecting our health? And what can we do better to deal with, cope with the stress? So why I chose this topic, and it has been in my focus, because patients were reporting to me that many of the conditions they suffer with, might be lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, were triggered during the very stressful times in their lives. And even if, you know, in the very few cases where that's not the case, I noticed that while the medical condition is ongoing, stress causes flares. And the medical literature is coming forth with publications now about the impact of stress on the immune system. And you can see here from a big Swedish cohort, exposure to a stress-related disorder significantly associated with risk of subsequent autoimmune disease. And speaking, you know, vasculitis, it's an autoimmune disease. I think this is as relevant as is for conditions where we have more scientific data supporting this connection. In the pain literature, it's very much now recognized that emotions, negative emotions do impact the pain perception, where a positive emotion can modulate the pain. Pain is part of so many of our rheumatic diseases, including vasculitis. So I think that's, again, very relevant for us to discuss the stress impact on the body during our presentation. So how prevalent is the stress in the United States? Over 50% Americans describe having moderate or high chronic stress. That's disheartening to see this number in a country that, you know, we have probably more material, let's say, comfort than other countries, and more, you know, peace and safety than other parts of the world. So very common symptoms of stress-associated disorder: irritability, angry outbursts, fatigue, lack of motivation, nervousness, feeling sad, upset stomach, muscle tension, headaches, poor sleep. You probably yourself recognize some of these also in your family, also just in society in general. We have been seeing with the pandemic higher stress and manifestations of the stress. Of course, unhealthy habits sprout from stress: overeating, drug, alcohol abuse, tobacco use. These are, again, commonsensical, but it's important to be reminding of them. So since we are talking about stress, what is it? So basically, any physical or emotional response to the change that happens in our body. And as you can see, it's a complete personal experience. because we are into continuous change. It just came to my mind. One of my team messages was the only constant is change. So basically, we are under stress continuously as long as we are alive. The key is how we respond to stress. So Hans Selye in 1936 defined stress as a non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. And we have a universe, I would call it, within ourselves when it comes to the billions of changes that happen while we are alive, and you can say we are stressed because we have the autonomic nervous system basically as an internet or a network that goes in every cell of the body. So every cell of the body responds when engaged in a change. I'm not going to call it stress, in a change. So we, as you probably know, we have just like the yin and yang, two opposing, balancing components of our autonomic nervous system. This is the automatic pilot that is in charge of everything that's happening in the body while I'm talking to you here. My heart beating, all the circulation, the liver, the gallbladder, every organ is still functioning and hopefully properly, as the stress level of me giving this talk today is lower than was, let's say, 20 years ago when I was giving a talk. So the sympathetic nervous system is the one that puts us into a fight-flight mode, and the parasympathetic is the one that tries to restore to balance or homeostasis. So in addition, from the nervous system, from the brain, the hypothalamus sends a lot of messages down the stream through the endocrine connection, the hormones. So the neuroendocrine aspects of the stress response involve a release of hormone from the brain called CRH that goes to the pituitary gland and after down to the adrenal glands. Probably you are more familiar to hearing about the adrenal glands as they make cortisol, which is one of the important stress hormones. And because in vasculitis, we use to counteract inflammation corticosteroids. That's kind of the natural equivalent of the prednisone, Medrol, all these corticosteroids that we use. So why is that happening during the stress? Because the cortisol will try to dampen the inflammatory process that happens through activation of the stress response. So multiple systems within the body work together to respond whenever there was a stressor that comes in contact to us. And again, stressors can be emotional, can be physical, can be chemical, etc. So what happens, you have all of this, mobilization of the resources to perform best in face of the stress. Unfortunately, if the stress is maintained for a long time, there will be fatigue, and after there will be decline in the performance of the body because the overload. It's very commonsensical, but unfortunately, we forget and we keep pushing ourselves to the quote expected performance here. When I came to this country, I learned about Buzz Lightyear. and the infinity and beyond. Sometimes our society here is trying to push us, to this expected performance that is beyond the place of where the body physiology can sustain. So the stress can definitely be overwhelming then, and we'll see the results of this chronic stress. So again, reviewing what happens to the physiology of the body when we are under stress, and maybe we are not running away from the beast these days, but there are other stressors that are perceived as life or death and catastrophic stress. So basically, again, we involve the autonomic nervous system, we involve the endocrine system, we have the release of these chemicals, epinephrine, norepinephrine, stress hormones, the cortisol from the adrenal glands. With increased heart rate, blood flow, blood pressure goes up. And paradoxically, with the decrease in inflammation and pain response in the acute stress through the cortisol, but with prolonged activation of this stress response, we will see actually increased inflammation. Same in acute phase, the cortisol will cause a boost in the immune response, but with chronic stress, we'll see a depression in the immune response. And increasing the blood glucose and decreasing insulin resistance in an acute stress is very helpful, but with long-term stress, we will see, unfortunately, diabetes and glucose intolerance occurring. So here is the reverse of the coin of this chronic stress that is going to lead through the epinephrine, norepinephrine hypertension, through the cortisol and dysregulation of the endocrine metabolic axis to diabetes and chronic inflammation. So going back here, all I want to say is that acute stress is meant for us to survive and is doing a good job. Chronic stress, unfortunately, is like this drop in a full glass. It makes it spill. It leads to damage in the body. And that perception of the stressors, it's a complete individual experience. Not everyone will perceive giving a talk in front of an audience that you don't see as, you know, a normal event. It can be stressful, for somebody that is not used to this. Same with every other event that you may experience on day-to-day basis, and particularly when you are dealing with a chronic illness. So that brings the discussion toward psychological stress, because psychological stress is something that we could have some degree of control over. And I told you I like things that we can have control over, or I learned from one of my colleague hematologists, that are actionable. Where can we take action in this, very complex stress response in the body? So I was just talking about control, and here is why psychological factors are stressful to us. Because we don't have control over or predictability. We don't have outlets to let the frustration of, let's say, dealing with a chronic illness. or we don't have the resources or the support. And also the perception that things are getting worse whenever you are in chronic pain. Don't know what is this bell about.
They come here on here.
Okay. So, yeah, we have a bell
Yeah, Dr. Taylor, we can barely hear it. It's fine.
Oh, okay, good. It's interesting, speaking about change and unpredictable. We have the ultrasound machine battery running low. So in certain, aspects of medicine, the stress has been more recognized as, deleterious thing for health, like in cardiology now. There is a lot of data showing heart disease stress relation. And finally, also recognition that the depression and stress increase the risk of mortality and recurrence of cardiac events. So very important, the psychological aspects. In gastroenterology, again, recognition that stress can damage the gut bacteria, and from there you have, again, the big impact on the immune system with recognition that allergic and autoimmune diseases have to do with the health integrity of this microbiome. We know that stress can accelerate aging, and we are making strides recognizing that the stress can overwhelm also the immune system, and it can affect the response to infection, and also, if we stretch it further, also data on autoimmunity. So again, I'm bringing this to your attention because you probably are aware about the interleukin-6 role in vasculitis. This is a highly pro-inflammatory cytokine that is being released from the immune cells in the state of stress. And in addition, this IL-6 itself can inform the brain that we are in a state of stress and create a vicious cycle where the brain activates again the stress response with further inflammation down the road. The sickness syndrome is being also recognized as being related to that hormone that I mentioned earlier, CRH, from the hypothalamus and pituitary gland in the state of sympathetic nervous activation, so stress. Interleukin-6 is going to be one of the cytokines, the chemicals that are behind the fatigue, somnolence, nausea, depressed mood that occur in the state of inflammation. And since we have been in the pandemic, we have recognized how COVID is very potent and activating the immune cells, and the IL-6 plays a major role in the organ damage, and we do have now IL-6 inhibitors for vasculitis treatment, but also for COVID pneumonia treatment. So this is definitely to tell, just a facet of the many physiologic changes that happen in the state of stress. But there is good news. We do have, just the way stress response is innately built in our makeup, also a relaxation response that tries to counteract the stress response. As I mentioned, everything is built in a yin-yang way, in a balanced way. So we can tap hopefully in these abilities to counteract the stress response. Dr. Herbert Benson and his colleagues at Harvard built upon the work of Swiss Nobel laureate Dr. Walter Hess. You can find a nice YouTube video if you are interested from Dr. Herbert Benson. And he described the physiological response that is an opposite of the fight or flight response, and he coined the term the relaxation response. And this relaxation response is basically the common pathway of all the mind-body therapies that we are going to discuss in a minute. So the relaxation response involves two steps. The repetition with a focused attention and the passive return. What does it mean? Dr. Herbert Benson involved meditators. They were Buddhist monks that were able to go into a state of complete relaxation during their meditation. He did functional MRI of the brain. He did analysis of their genome and epigenetics, meaning the expression of the genome protein and cytokines, etc., and was able to see that through their practice, they were able to activate the anti-inflammatory genes and to deactivate the sympathetic fight-flight response by activating the vagus nerve or the parasympathetic response. So he concluded that although we are not yet trained Zen Buddhists, we could activate the same relaxation response through repetition of a word, sound, prayer, phrase, or muscular activity with a focused attention and with return to that phrase or movement when there are intrusive thoughts. So this, in simpler ways, it is used with the following mind-body therapies: yoga, qigong, progressive muscle relaxation, meditation, and mindful walking, or a form of exercise that is done with passive, let's say, relaxation. You are not walking with, all thoughts full of fear, anger. You have to walk in a mood of relaxation, let go, positivity. So breath work is another way of activating the relaxation response. And this is just one of the many breath work methods that are available and is taught by Andrew Weil. But there are so many apps there that are giving you the opportunity to exercise your breath and activate the vagus nerve and the relaxation response, maybe 10 minutes twice a day. That's kind of the limit where the science says that you can make a dent into the relaxation response. So this is a video available online from the GI division at UCLA. And Suzanne Smith here is teaching diaphragmatic breathing, which means breathing through the belly, involving your diaphragm, where the vagus nerve has a lot of sensors, and it will inform the nervous system. We are into a relaxed, rest, and let go state. And that down the road will influence the immune system and the endocrine system and harness all that anti-inflammatory benefits of the immune system. Meditation, again, very beneficial for, it's now recognized, lowering the blood pressure, helping mood, anxiety, and depression. Not so easy necessarily to implement in your life if you have never done it before, but I personally can testify to this. 15 years ago, I joined the Mindful Awareness Research Center at UCLA for 6-week evening classes. And I started with 3 minutes meditation, and now it has become part of my daily routine. I find that breath work in combination with meditation is very powerful to deactivate the stress response in the body. So you can download the app. It's a free app from the MARC, Mindful Awareness Research Center, and they have free meditation for every level, as again, starting with 1 minute of relaxation. And this actually meditations, the mindfulness, are embedding also breath work. So very simple things. Qigong, it's part of the martial arts and involves, again, slow movements with breath work, with now again lots of science showing how benefits the body by switching from the stress response into the relaxation response, and again anti-inflammatory benefits for what we are concerned here today. Other anti-stress systems that are built in our biology, oxytocin. It's a powerful hormone that is being released for our brain in social interactions that are supportive and bring comfort to us. So a very simple prescription is laughter medicine. Very important to laugh and try to maintain your positive attitude because it's good for you. And it's very also important to watch not what we eat, but what we put in our minds, and try to stay away from negative people. That's a very simple advice and very important. Try not to associate with toxic relationships. And speaking of positive emotions and harnessing that compassion, it's one emotion that has a lot of neuroscientific evidence for benefiting health. And we know now that empathic relationships that are based on compassion help our immune system to function better. Lots of data showing shorter post-surgery hospital stays, fewer asthma attacks, stronger placebo response, and shorter duration of colds. So how can we harness that compassion? Through kindness, generosity, motivation, empathy, action to help, peace, strength. You see all these positive emotions, which are not easy to harness when you are suffering and in pain. So that's why it's very important that you start with self-compassion and give yourself the love and the support through this difficult journey of a chronic illness. And you can start with journaling and writing 3 things that you are grateful for. And it can be for being grateful for the outside world, but start with 3 things that you are grateful to yourself. Because it's so important to give that love to yourself for the amazing work that you are doing, trying to restore to health. And being part of this seminar this morning, it's something you should be giving yourself credit for, because that's your motivation and willingness to get well. And we do not heal in isolation, but in community. Surround yourself with supportive relationships. And again, we are here in a community this morning trying to heal together. Because the sources of suffering are in separateness, and the remedy is in remembering that we are in this together. And we are here to support each other. And I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for being here. And I would like to take your questions now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor, for that. I wrote down about 5 things that I can do to improve my life and hopefully improve my vasculitis. But right now, what I'd love to do is turn things over to Dr. Kermani. She is going to see if there's any questions in the question and answer area. And this would be a great time for some of you to put some questions in there. Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Kermani.
Thank you. Thank you, Mihaela. I always learn something from you. It's such a joy to listen to your talks, and she does a lot for physician wellness as well. Is there a place where people can find some of these resources to explore, like in one place rather than looking in multiple areas? And the next question is, how do you find what might work for you? Because we're all different. And how long do you give some strategy time before you say it's working or not working for you, or it's for you or not for you?
Excellent question. Excellent question. I will start first with how do you know if it's good for you? That requires a lot of personal self-work and introspection. And I learned, and that was the first puzzlement when I started my fellowship with Andrew Weil, that every illness has a lot of opportunity for self-introspection and self-growth. It's a very difficult, challenging way to learn, but it does give you that opportunity to kind of dig further and learn what is that I have to learn through this journey. So introspection and journaling, I have also myself started lately to do more of that, where initially I was doing more of the meditation that Mindful Awareness Research Center, and that's a very important resource for all participants to take down today. But with time, I realized that, you know, if you do not know yourself, you cannot heal properly, or you don't heal at the root cause of the problem. So introspection, and that you can do also sometime with a counselor, with a health coach, with a close friend or family member. But it's very important to start with that. And how do you know what's good for you? You know when you know. Basically, through that introspection, you can say, okay, this brings me pleasure. A walk in the woods, or at the beach, where somebody else may say, this brings me pleasure, reading a book, being with myself, journaling. Or, you know, I cannot do Zen meditation, but I can do breath work, because I can focus on this, you know, pacer on the screen with my breath, and that is at the end of 5 minutes, feeling better in my body. So the response can be as quick as 5 minutes if this is a good match for you. or it may take, a more dedication. Like I started doing breath work with a biofeedback specialist after I had COVID, and I knew that the breath work, it really helps with post-COVID symptoms, but she got me doing 10 minutes of breath work in a pace that was very foreign to my body. So it was more like going to the gym and working out, which is something I don't enjoy. So I had to employ a lot of will, knowing that the science tells me it's good for me. But you can choose your way of healing. Like, because I'm a very rational and of course trained as a physician, I employ a lot of knowledge to empower me from what I am doing. But you can be a more intuitive person and say, this sounds and feels good to me, and employ that when you are choosing from these methods. Martial arts, people that are inclined toward doing Tai Chi and Qigong may find that a very good match. My son was in martial arts since he was 5, so I was kind of open toward that, and now Qigong is part of my routine. If I don't do Qigong in the morning 5 minutes, I feel like I'm not able to do my day properly. I cannot follow through with my day. So where do you find these resources? That's a challenge, but not so anymore. If you look at the academic centers that are close to where you reside, they all have now integrative medicine websites. UCLA has one. On that website, there are resources, just like the video that I gave you today with the diaphragmatic breathing is from the UCLA Gastroenterology Division, the Mindful Awareness Research Center. Andrew Weil, Integrative Medicine at University of Arizona, amazing website, resources, mind-body techniques, nutrition, supplements. UC San Francisco, amazing integrative medicine center, Cleveland Clinic, I'm sure Mayo Clinic. So fortunately, with the internet, we are all connected.
Thank you. And then someone has a question about, can some of the stress and emotional impact be from the medications we're taking?
Sorry, I missed that. I saw in the chat Diana Winston at UCLA. Yes, Diana Winston at Mark. It's the one that I learned meditation. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Tell me.
Can stress and emotional impact be from the medications we're taking?
Definitely. Definitely. Because, and that's why I like educating my patients. And that's why I'm practicing integrative medicine, because I'm a strong believer that the Western medicine has an amazing armamentarium to offer now to patients with autoimmunity, with vasculitis. And basically, when you do your work, lowering the stress, lowering the fear, keeping positive emotions, you are responding in a completely different way. I just learned that our stress response is completely dependent on the state of emotional activation when we encounter the stressor. The limbic system primes completely different the autonomic nervous system if you are in a negative emotional state versus you are in an open state. There is a study on chemotherapy with a group of patients that were very willing to receive the treatment and the group that was very apprehensive. And in the group that was very willing to receive the treatment and also had a prayer partner while the chemotherapy was infused, the results were night and day in regards of the response to the treatment. So the very important is also to have a supportive environment, good relationships, a physician and a care team that is also very supportive. for the medications to do its best.
And then there's a comment about how somebody became less stressed and reactive once they stopped judging and blaming themselves for what they couldn't do and stopped trying to control what they couldn't do.
Self-love. This gave me goosebumps actually, because self-love, we preach about it, but to implement that is the journey of a lifetime. Letting go of self-judgment, being kind to yourself. Do not consider the illness as defining you as a human being. Letting go of all these labels and just embrace yourself as, you know, the being that is doing an amazing work to cope and deal with such a medical condition. That's the start of the healing.
Yeah. I think we're out of time. Are we, Kathy?
Yes, we are. We're running short on, we have hit the hour mark, and I'm afraid that we have run out of time because of that. But there were just a couple of more little questions in there, and we'll see if we can get those answers to you after the fact. But we appreciate all of the time that everyone has spent here today. I learned some great things from you today, Dr. Taylor. I wrote down diaphragmatic breathing and compassion and laughter and all, and that app that you put in there. There's just like so many great things that as vasculitis patients we can do to help ourselves heal instead of just relying on what our doctors prescribe for us. So thank you so much for giving us additional tools in our toolbox. That was a wonderful presentation today. And thank you, Dr. Kermani, for being here today. Also, this webinar will be on the Vasculitis Foundation website shortly. If you got registered for it, you will get an email telling you when it is up on the Vasculitis Foundation website. But thank you so much to the two of you for being here today and sharing with us. We really appreciate you giving your time for this.
It's our pleasure.
I'm very grateful.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
take care, everyone.
Yes, take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.